Admit it, we've all done it. Snuck in a mobile call or even texted while driving. Not only are we risking hefty fines, we're also placing our lives and the lives of others in very serious danger. Accidents caused by distracted drivers are now one of the biggest killers on our roads, especially among young people. But it's not just mobile phones that are the culprit. Cars are now bristling with all manner of electronic gadgetry to make the driving experience easier. Sadly, they're also making it easier to be fatally distracted. But as Alex Cullen reports, there's help on the way, thanks to an ingenious Aussie invention.
The driver of this ute is distracted by his GPS. He hasn't seen the signs warning there's a junction up ahead. 4 people in an approaching car have only seconds to live.
Do you wonder how you could have survived?
It does. It makes me think about this all the time of how is it possible for someone to get out of this, and yeah, it does. It makes me realise I'm very lucky and I shouldn't probably be here, but a miracle happened.
Yeah.
Brad Kelly was seriously injured. The only survivor of 5 people in that car. Killed instantly were his partner, Josh Doyle, along with Josh's sister, Jessica, grandmother, Bev, and his mum, Michelle. Miraculously, the driver of the ute who caused the crash escaped unharmed.
Innocently doing nothing wrong, and everything just gets ripped away just like that because of someone else's not doing the right thing.
Fatal distraction. Motorists looking at GPS devices, dashboard displays, texting and talking on their mobiles. 60% of us admit we do it. It's a factor in 1 in 5 car crashes.
Distracted driving is utterly rampant in Australia. It is killing hundreds of Australians every single year, and thousands are getting hurt. The irony is, technology is meant to assist us in our lives, and in all sorts of areas of our life it does, except when it's in our cars and the technology is killing us.
Not so long ago, a car dashboard looked like this. Now, this. Information overload. And drivers are doing crazy things like taking selfies and videos of themselves behind the wheel.
Young people are always the most at risk on our roads because they're least experienced. And what we know about young generation is they absolutely love their technology and their phones, but you put that combination, a love of technology, into a car, it's a lethal combination, and it's having tragic consequences every single day.
Consequences that are taking precious young lives. Like 20-year-old Kier Neeb Rose, known to her family as Sissy.
Kier is beautiful, just funny, very, very funny. She just loved life. She was my best friend. She was the person that I could talk to about anything. She could talk to me about anything.
Quite a special bond you had.
Yes, definitely.
It seems to me that Kier is everywhere.
Yeah.
Photos.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Every room.
Yeah.
Every wall.
Yeah.
There's something of Kier.
Yeah. It's just so I can see her every morning, and my whole idea of my photos everywhere is so that they tell a story.
Yeah.
Kier was Janard's only daughter. She was independent, learned to drive at an early age on the farm, and thought nothing of driving long distances.
And like lots of young women her age, she was always out and about, always on her phone.
All the time. It was definitely a part of her life.
An October morning 3 years ago, Kier was heading across Queensland's Darling Downs to meet her mum Jenard and brothers Jacob and Kyle in the town of Dalby.
Kier was driving along this road from home into Dalby for a doctor's appointment. It's a trip she'd done countless times before. Now, it's a 60-kilometre trip and there is no mobile phone coverage until you get a bit closer to town. And it's about here where you do get reception, and Kier would have finally been able to use her phone.
The text messages would have just started popping up from, when she was out of range. So obviously the temptation to then look at what's gone on was obviously a bit too great. That would have started popping up for sure.
She would have only been about 5 to 10 minutes away from arriving at her destination.
On this straight stretch of highway, witnesses saw Kier's ute drift onto the other side of the road. A small truck was approaching, trying to get out of the way, but it was too late. Kier didn't even brake and hit the truck at about 90 k's an hour. The driver's side took the full impact, and her ute caught fire.
The truck driver survived. Jenard was approaching on the same road just a few minutes behind, unaware of what had happened up ahead.
The road was cut off with detour signs because of an accident. I had this instinct that you get that something was wrong.
Highway Patrol Officer Sergeant Brett Stevenson was nearby when the crash happened. He found a vital clue to what caused Kier's death.
I noticed that there was actually a mobile phone sitting in the grass just near the window of the vehicle, totally intact, nothing wrong with it, hadn't been damaged, just lying in the grass there.
What did you find on that phone?
We found that in the last 10 minutes of her life that she'd basically sent and received 22 text messages, right up to and including basically the time of the crash itself. So basically, yeah, the last few moments of her life was spent using the phone and not looking where she was going.
So 22 text messages sent and received in 10 minutes?
In 10 minutes, yeah. Yeah, that's a lot.
Here's why Kier's crash was so tragically inevitable. This research shows how dangerously distracted a driver can become. Each second of not paying attention increases the chances of a catastrophe. All the evidence suggests that in Kier's final moments, she did not have her eyes on the road.
And was she speeding?
No.
Had she been drinking?
No.
Had she been taking drugs?
No. My firm opinion is that she was distracted by a mobile phone at the time.
And so a 20-year-old woman is dead? Just like that?
That's right, absolutely, yeah. Just for that minor 3 or 4 seconds, that's all it takes, and all of a sudden, yeah, someone's killed. And in this case, it was Kier.
Jenard still has Kier's mobile phone. Every night, she leaves it fully charged where her daughter once kept it, right by her bedside.
The messages on there, have you ever seen them? Do you want to?
No, I think more it's her privacy.
Yeah. And you'll keep that?
Yeah, I still actually don't know why. I think it's just holding on to anything that is her. That's pretty much what life has become.
Yeah. What are you thinking when you look at that phone?
It's... If that is why my daughter doesn't come home, or why I will never ever watch her have children or get married or just never get to do the things that we had always talked about. And if that is the reason why she's not here anymore, I just think why.
It's probably one of the worst ones I've ever had to investigate. At the time, my daughter was just about to get her learners, and knowing that she couldn't keep a phone out of her hand really brought it home to me that this could have been, my daughter or one of my mates' daughters. I think with the generation that's coming through, where they were born with one in their hand, I think it's harder and harder for them to put it down and not be distracted by it.
Coming up,
The truck was right there. We hit at a high impact.
the Aussie invention that can save lives on the road.
It's sampling over 100 points on your face.
And later,
Anxiety and feelings I couldn't find my way through.
Bruce Springsteen's biggest secret.
Music was my first self-medication.
Inside most new cars, the technology can be overwhelming. Gadgets designed to improve our driving experience. But DVD players, touchscreen radios and GPS systems are also potentially distracting. Potentially fatal.
You get in a new car, you're actually getting multiple points of information thrown at you. What you've also got is an explosion of options, texts and phones and internet. And remember, driving a car on its own is a complex task. So what we're seeing today, it's very complex, it's very risky, and it's having tragic consequences.
Mobile phones are often the primary cause of accidents. But here, it's a GPS, being used by a farmer heading towards an intersection in country South Australia. This is actual video from his dash camera. At the intersection ahead, a truck is coming from the right. And from the left, a car with 5 people on board.
As we're coming around the bend, there's an intersection and I could see a truck in the distance.
Brad Kelly was in the front passenger seat. His partner, Josh Doyle, was driving. Josh's sister, Jessica, his grandmother, Bev, and his mum, Michelle, were in the back seat.
We were coming from this way, this area, and as we're coming this way, in this direction, a truck was coming in the opposite direction.
The farmer was on a side road in his ute, heading towards a give-way sign at the intersection. All 3 vehicles were converging fast.
The car hit the truck, and the truck swung around, and there was nothing we could do. The truck was right there, and then we hit at a high impact.
This is the first time Brad has been back to the scene.
It felt like it was a lifetime, but in reality it was a split second. The legs couldn't move. So I've dragged myself around the back of the car to see if everyone was all right. And no one was all right. I could tell from the impact that no one was going to be alive.
And what did the driver of the ute then do?
He was in shock himself and he ran off in the other direction.
Did he say anything?
There was nothing he could say. He was screaming, "What have I done? What have I done?"
The truck driver was unhurt. So too the ute driver who caused the crash, 65-year-old Alexander Waldridge. He pleaded guilty to 4 counts of causing death by dangerous driving and 1 of causing serious harm. Wooldridge had a clean driving record. Jailed for at least 2 years, he was freed on appeal after serving 82 days.
This man took 4 lives. He admitted that he'd taken his eyes off the road. He was looking at his GPS, and he's taken 4 lives. Taken my family. And the penalty he got, I don't know, I just can't understand it.
Darren Doyle's wife, Michelle, their 2 children, 22-year-old Josh and 16-year-old Jessica, and his mother-in-law, Bev, were killed in the crash.
People say, oh, I understand what you're going through, but they don't. No one does. I can't come home at night now and give me kids a kiss and me wife a kiss. Can't do any of that.
The reality is people are losing their lives on our roads every day, and the problem is getting worse. And all of these distractions are causing immeasurable trauma. Technology actually started this problem, and the reality is technology will be called on to fix it.
But sampling over 100 points on your face, from your eyeballs, your eyelids and your head.
I'm test driving a brand new Australian invention called Foveo. It uses facial recognition technology to alert drivers if they're dangerously distracted.
We know that glances off the road for more than 2 seconds are where your accident risk skyrockets. With the escalating use of phones in the car, it's almost like a tsunami that we're facing. In terms of the way people use phones, people are looking away from the roadway for much longer than 2 seconds.
The system has been developed by a Canberra company called Seeing Machines. It enables cars to watch what drivers are up to, even with phones tucked out of sight.
So this camera that's looking at me right now, it can see me looking down into my lap.
Absolutely. The technology measures where you're actually looking with your eyes. It measures your head position and the position of your eyelids. So this technology knows that you're about to use your phone almost before you do.
Within a year, Foveo will be installed in a new range of cars produced by a major US manufacturer.
When this technology is in a car, if the driver is not looking at the road for 2 or 3 seconds, the car will alert the driver and eventually take over and bring the car to a stop.
It's designed to prevent tragedies like the one that claimed Kier, who'd sent and received 22 texts in the minutes before she died.
A distraction from the road for any reason, it shatters families. It has ruined my family. There is such a large piece of us that is not here anymore, and it is getting through the days that are very, very hard.